I know what I showed you with Panorama. Panorama was the film that tried to expose me. I called my documentary Panodrama. That should be mainstream TV around the world. Americans need to watch that.
I've never seen Panorama or heard about it.
No, because you weren't allowed to, because it was shut down. They put me back in prison. They shut me off every social media in response to it. Watch that documentary. It's the best expose you'll ever watch. I'm not just saying it because it's my work, yeah? Then I've done Rape of Britain 5-part series. Then I've done Hope Not Hate. I showed how Hope Not Hate, NGO organisations will be working in the United States. They will be creating source of information. They'll be blackmailing people. They'll be funding people. Then the media will use what they say. They will pump it to the global audience to discredit, slander and attack. So that's what I showed. My next documentary, I'm going to show that not just you, the question you asked me, why? Why did they let it happen? I'm going to show you why they let it happen. I'm going to go through the towns and cities where this happened. I'm going to show you Labour's involvement. The Labour Party, our government, the Democratic Party. As I said, in Rochdale, the councillor went to court and he gave a character reference for the rapist. He didn't lose his job. In Oldham, the man whose job it was to protect kids for Labour, he's in jail as one of the rapists. In Rotherham, the councillor was part of the gangs. In all of these cities, Labour are in bed. And do you know what's happened? Anyone who spoke out has been discredited, attacked and lost their job. Sarah Champion was a politician in Rotherham. She spoke out against these gangs. She lost her job. They got rid of her. They replaced her with Naz Shah, Muslim politician. Naz Shah is on record as sharing a message that said victims of these grooming gangs need to shut their mouths for the sake of diversity. She was promoted and took the job of Sarah Champion as the women's minister for the Labour government. They have hid this at a level coming from the highest. So you imagine if you had a real independent inquiry in our country, who's got dirty hands? Well, they're all at the top now. The man who was in charge of Rotherham, remember, they come and raided me in the early days and stopped me going to demonstrations. The police officer who is in charge, 2006, 2010, the biggest rape scandal in our country, he's now in charge of counter-terrorism. I'm facing a counter-terrorism trial on October 13th. I was detained under counter-terrorism on the 28th of July last year. I was stopped at the border, leaving the country. Article 7 of the Terrorism Act, they passed these laws, which means you don't have a right to remain silent, and you have to give them your passcode. So if you're detained under terrorism legislation in an airport in the UK or a port, it's the only places they can do it. So they stopped me. Do you know what their words were? We know you're not involved in terrorism, Tommy. We know, yeah? But this gives us power to do this. They interviewed me for 6 hours. I have no right to remain silent. So what they asked me was everything to do with my legitimate work. Who are you working with? Who's helping you? What are you organising? Do you know what they said? The Great Replacement. They said, how are you going to stop the Great Replacement? I thought it was a conspiracy. How are you? So this is, and I've got the interview. So I now face prosecution and prison. So when they get to my phone, they say, give us your password for your phone. I said, not a chance, because I'm a journalist. So my sources of information, everything I'm working on, I've just told you a documentary I'm working on. In that documentary, I will expose Labour politicians who were involved in raping kids. Yeah, they know that. They want to know what I've got, how I've got it. So they come in, I'm a journalist. You don't have a right to know my source of information. They prosecuted me. They arrested me, seized my phone. Now I face prison not for any crime. They weren't searching for a crime. You talk about freedom. There is no freedom. I'm a journalist. I'm detained under terrorism legislation. No right to remain silent. Have to give them my password. Because I refused to give them my password, I now face prison. And who's in charge of it? The same police officer who was in charge of the Rotherham scandal, who has dirty hands. They've all got, Keir Starmer's got dirty hands. The head of the government have got dirty hands. All of them conspired to hide the rape of a generation of our daughters and slavery, murder, torture. They handed over our children. And I've met the parents. I don't think anyone can quite understand the scale of this rape scandal. This will be viewed as the darkest stain on British history. Is it easier to tackle them or get rid of me? And they've attacked me and slandered me and defamed me. They've used headlines, media, weapons. When the riots kicked off, so October 27th, we hold 100,000 people. Do you know what hurts them? We've now got our own social media. People are watching. We had 1 million people watching live on X. Yeah, we're having a celebration of identity. We don't allow masks to be worn. We know how they infiltrate government. Look, there's an organisation called the Special Demonstration Squad. This was a British government organisation who go into peaceful demonstrations and kick off violence, because then they can discredit you. Then they use the media to pump the images to portray who you are as a movement. We don't allow that. So we now hold our own demonstrations. We don't allow face coverings. We police ourselves. In these events, this would have put the fear of God into the British establishment. 100,000 people chanting Christ is King. That would worry them. Yeah, they've been trying to attack Christianity and end Christianity in our country. And 100,000 people, peacefully, we've reached the public, families. Do you know the diversity of our crowd? Bearing in mind they've been trying to portray us as racist. The amount of minority blacks, Asians, Sikhs, Hindus, church leaders who are now coming to our events. The day after that, I'm detained under terrorism legislation. The day after that. Then I'm prosecuted. Now, the riots kicked off in London. The riots kicked off. 3 young children are butchered. People are angry. I run the English Defence League. This is when we can go down and understand what's happening. It's like the whole Russia hoax. The riots kick off. I'm not in the country when the riots kick off because I've been detained. I'm now on the way to Spain. Riots kick off. I see the news headlines coming out of Southport. They're blaming it on the English Defence League. There is no English Defence League. I left the English Defence League in 2015. It was disbanded. This organisation has not existed for a decade. The government are blaming the English Defence League. The police are blaming the English Defence League. So I knew straight away then, they're landing that on my lap. Why are they landing on my lap? Because if they wanted to understand why these people are angry, they're angry because of government failures. So they rioted in Southport because as children were murdered, the government tried to hide the reality of who it was. They didn't give the public the information, which allowed rumour mill to spread. I never said anything on who done this. I never made any allegations of who it was. Yeah. As these riots kicked off, they then kicked off in a city called Hull. Now, what they don't want the public to know is that in Hull, a man in the hotel, migrants, we spent £15 billion housing these migrants in hotels. They're coming into the country. The British can't afford to help to feed. They can't afford heating. And yet the hotels are being filled with migrants. One of the migrants left the hotel in Hull and he went out in an act of jihad and he murdered a British pensioner for Palestine. Yeah? He killed someone screaming about Palestine. A terrorist in a hotel. Riots kicked off in Tamworth. If you look in Tamworth, Mohammed left the hotel in Tamworth and raped an English woman. So as these riots spread across the country, they don't want anyone to understand why people are angry in those cities. So instead, they blamed it on an ideology. They blamed it on the far right. Then in steps the Daily Mail. I'm on holiday with my children. I'll show you this headline. I'm on holiday with my children. I've got nothing to do with the riots. I'm calling for peace the whole time. Every video I've done, I'm saying, stop the riots, stop the violence. This is where they combine together. Silence showed the way the security services, the government, the media, they all work together to push their agenda and push their narrative. So in step the Daily Mail. I'm on holiday with my kids. I'm laying on holiday with my kids. This front page story comes out, and this is the Daily Mail, yeah? This is them, the press awards. Tommy Robinson on holiday. Our photograph of Tommy Robinson stoking the flames of the post-Southport race riots from the safety of a Cypriot sunbed became one of the defining images of this summer's disorder. The defining image of this summer's disorder became me on the sunbed. Not the riots, not actual Rudy Gomana. Yeah? The media made me the scapegoat. I had nothing to do with the riots. But they run a headline that said I was instigating the riots. That headline was picked up by the rest of the world's media, and then they pumped it to the entire globe. I've just done a documentary that's gone out now to show what happened. When the journalists done this is the video, yeah? So they run this headline, they tracked me down, they gave the location of where I was, bearing in mind the threats of my family. They shared images of innocent family members in a national newspaper. Then Muslims started making videos telling people to go to the hotel. Muslims made videos with machine guns. Muslim made death threats. My mum and dad had to be relocated. They blamed me for the entire summer disorder. And I had nothing to do with it. And then do you know what I've done? The Daily Mail journalists had done that. I turned the cameras on them. I'm a journalist. I tracked down where they were. I messaged them saying, hey, I'm finding you with my cameras. I'm going to ask you some questions. They've prosecuted me. When I was in jail now, and the police, I got 18 months in prison. We won a case and they said they had to release me. So we find out I'm getting released. The next day, the Metropolitan Police Force come into my cell the next day and said, you're in court on the 5th of June. And they slapped me on more charges. My charges are that I caused fear of violence to these journalists. My messages told them I'm coming to ask them questions. So the protectist globalist media are not allowed to be questioned.
And Daily Mail is a conservative. Some people wouldn't, they're definitely not a leftist. They were supportive of Brexit.
They're controlled media. My name's Tommy Robinson. I'm a citizen journalist. And for my work, I've become an enemy of the British state. I've humiliated them and embarrassed them with my content. I've exposed the Islamic rape gangs which they successfully hid for almost 30 years. My work many times has landed me in prison. In the last 15 years, I've learned a lot about how the media work, about how the government work, the judiciary works. I've made many documentaries. If you would like to connect directly with me, you can do so now via their app, Minute.
If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.